Stephanie Denman from the Denman Homestead, and do you know what day it is? Can you take a guess? What about this? Any ideas yet? More clue. Yeah. Yeah, it's about to go down. We are about to can. We are about to water bath, and we are going to pickle the cucumbers. So yeah, let's jump right into it. So Laura and Brinley are outside in our little above ground swimming pool we have for them, so they may be coming in and out. But right here I have 12 pounds approximately of cucumbers that I've picked from my garden, and I have washed them, scrubbed them, and just to give you a heads up, there are two different varieties. This is a Boston pickling, and this is a Marketmore cucumber. Both of them are great to use for pickling, slicing, eating fresh. So I just had two different varieties, and we're going to use both of them today in our pickling recipe. So some of them I'm going to do slices, and a lot of them I'm going to do spears. I've learned over the years that we do like hamburger type slices, and we eat them, but my kids enjoy eating the spears just straight out of the jar more often. So I'm going to be making more of those with the longer cucumbers. Okay, so some of these we're going to, like I said, cut into like hamburger, like sliced this way, sandwich pickles. And some we were going to do some spears with. I don't know if you can tell the thickness, but I'm sure you've had like a pickle chip thickness, or what, you can do them as thin or as thick as you'd like. So earlier I had my my mason jars in the dishwasher, and I just made sure that they're clean and sterile. Or you can wash them with hot soapy water and just make sure they're really clean. The rings and lids as well. I also have my clean lids and rings in my Ziploc baggies. So we just want to make sure that everything is sterile and clean so that you don't risk bacteria or other nasty germs. Okay, so I've got a bowl full of spears on top, and then there's some slices underneath. So I'm going to start, I still have some cucumbers I need to cut up, but I'm going to go ahead and start my mixture of what's going to go, the pickle juice essentially. I'm going to start it on the stove. And I have a dill pickle mix that I'm going to be using today. You can buy these, I pick them up sometimes like when I go grocery shopping. This is a dill pickle mix. This is bread and butter pickle mix. Buddy likes bread and butter pickles. I think that they're like a little bit sweeter, like a sweet pickle. I don't really care for sweet pickles, but I do like dill pickles. There's a dill pickle mix as well. So I'm going to be doing a dill pickle mix, and the ratio I'm going to use is about, thank you, Laura. I'm going to use what's left of this. It's about halfway used. This is from Ball, the makers of Ball. And I'm going to use half of this for my pickles here. See how far it'll spread for me. But I'm going to use about a 7 1/3 cup of water and 3 1/3 cups of vinegar. Here, it's 5% acidity. There's different strengths of vinegar that you can use, but this is the one I use for canning. So you can also, I've also picked up these every once in a while, just different pickle spices that you can find. I've ordered some spices online. You can make your own with dill, mustard seed, whatever you want to put in there. We've done pickles with garlic and peppers before. And fresh dill. You can really play around with it. But basically you just want to make sure that you've got some sort of acid and salt. But because you want, in order for the water bath canner to work, you want anything that you're pickling to have a high acidity, because that would kill off any potential botulism or botulism spores. So botulism or botulinum cannot live in high acidic environments. So that's why it's okay to water bath pickles. And we'll get to the other types of vegetables that require pressure canning, because it requires a higher temperature, higher than boiling water, to kill off those spores, like meat and other just plain veggies without being pickled or jellied, like jellies, jams, and pickles, and most tomatoes can be water bathed, canned, and then everything else pretty much needs to be pressure canned. Today we're doing pickles, so we're going to water bath them. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my mixture going in my pot that I'm going to pickle my cucumbers with. Okay, so to our stainless steel pot, you're going to want to make sure it's stainless steel and not aluminum. But to our stainless steel pot, we are going to add our spices. And just follow the package instructions depending on how much vinegar and water and all that you'll need, and how many pickles it'll make, how many pints, how many quarts. That will all depend on what your spice, what the spices that you're using calls for. So this is going to be 3 1/4 cups vinegar. Let me see. I'm sorry, 3 1/3 cups. It is about to smell like pickles in here. And then 7 1/3 cups water. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the heat on. We are going to bring this mixture to a boil, and then we are going to turn off the heat. While this is coming to a boil, I'm going to add water to my water bath canner. Okay, I have water in my water bath canner, and I'm just going to go ahead and start heating it up. And I've got my pickling brine mixture also coming to a simmer. While all that's going on, I'm going to take some of my warm jars, and it's kind of important, well, it is very important, that if you're doing a hot pack method and not a cold pack method, that everything is hot or warm. If you stick a cold jar into hot water, it will crack and break. So you could put your oven on warm, or however your oven works to keep things warm. I've got some jars in there, and then I also have jars in my dishwasher that I needed to have cleaned and sterilized. So whichever one, make sure that they're warm. It's warm going into warm, and then going into warm, and then that way nothing breaks or cracks. So I'm gonna start packing my cucumbers into I've got pint and quart jars. And because I'm going to probably be mixed and matching them in my water bath at the same time, we're going to cook these for 15 minutes on a boil, and then we will let them rest, and then I'll take them out. So I'll show you what I'm doing. I like these tall wide mouth jars for the spears, because you can get down into them easier, and they're tall so that you can have longer spears in them. So see how they fit really well? And before I forget, I'm gonna add a splash or two vinegar to my water in my canner, because I have well water and it's hard water. So adding some vinegar to your water bath will help keep your jars from clouding or collecting like minerals on the outside of your your jars, plus it helps your canner as well not to have a film of the minerals from the hard water. My brine mixture for my pickles is coming to a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. Okay, now in my smaller jars, I'm going to add in some of the slices. Okay, let me show you. All of my jars, pints and quarts, filled, and I'm going to now add in the brine. Hopefully I have enough, and if I don't, I'll just have to make another batch. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my funnel that I have here for my jars, and I'm going to just set this over here. This is a wide mouth jar. I'm going to grab a ladle. I'm going to grab my ladle, and I am going to just ladle this mixture into my jars. Try to get close. And I'm going to leave about an inch headspace, and what that means is you're going to want about an inch of space from the top of the jar with your liquid. So from the top of your jar ring, you're going to want about an inch headspace there. Add a little bit more. Okay, set that aside. Had to go ahead and add another batch of my brine for my pickles because I ran out, so I'm gonna make some more, and if I have any extra left over, I can just make refrigerator pickles with it, which is basically like putting this in a mason jar with cucumbers and sticking them in the refrigerator, and I don't necessarily have to can it. I just need to eat the pickles within the next like 2 weeks or so. Okay, I have all of my jars filled here, and I'm gonna take a clean towel and I'm gonna wipe the rims of all of them to make sure that there's no water or anything that could stop the seal from sealing the tops of the jars. What you can also do too, before you wipe the jars, is you can stick like a butter knife or something down on the side and run your stick or chopstick or knife on around the edges and get any extra air bubbles out from underneath and around your vegetables. Yeah. When you put on your lids and your rings, you just want to tighten them finger tight. You don't want to over tighten them or else the lid will buckle. So just tighten down like that. So again, just finger tight. So you also want to inspect your lids before you put them on. You want to make sure there's no rust, no spots where they've been bent, where they wouldn't be able to make a correct seal. I use my rings over and over and over again, but as far as lids go, I just feel like I feel safer using brand new lids. Some people reuse their lids. I won't comment on that, if you know, to each their own, but I just feel like for me, I don't want to take the risk. So I will use brand new lids and I will reuse my rings. because the rings are not what comes in contact with your food. It just holds on your lid during processing. And a lot of times people take their rings off after they've had time to process. I also want to be careful too, because I've done this before where I thought it was just one lid and there was actually 2 lids on here, and I water bathed with 2 lids on and it never sealed, and I didn't understand why, and it's because there was a double lid. Okay, look right here.
Oh, where? Oh, okay.
Don't touch, yeah, there you go. Just flip it over and put it on the jar. And then put this on top and just kind of tighten it down. But not over tight, yeah. Just till it stops spinning. Good job.
Woo!
Thank you. See this right here? I'm gonna throw this away because it's bent and I don't know that it's gonna hold the seal down properly, so I'm gonna toss this. All right, so now I'm going to take my jars and I'm gonna set them down in this water bath. And what we are going to want is the water to come above the top of these lids by over 2 inches. I want them fully submerged. Okay, I have my water now above the lids, about 1 inch or 2 above each lid, or the taller lids here. And I'm gonna wait for this to come to a boil, and then once it does, I'm gonna cover it, and I'm gonna set the timer for 15 minutes. And then I'm gonna turn the heat off, and I'm gonna wait 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna remove these, and I'll show you what I do next. Okay, I turned the heat off of the second batch. Our others are sitting over there on the counter. And just waiting on this one to finish up. We're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes with the heat turned off, and then we will take them and set them aside. Okay, I turned the heat off of the second batch. Our others are sitting over there on the counter. And just waiting on this one to finish up. We're gonna let it sit for about 5 minutes with the heat turned off, and then we will take them and set them aside. When you take your jars out of the canner, make sure you lift them straight up. You're going to be tempted to tilt them to get the water off the top. Don't do that. It will evaporate, and if it doesn't, you can dab it up with a paper towel in a little bit, but if you tilt them, you risk breaking the seal before it seals tight. I'm just going to set these on the counter. We want them to sit on the counter for about 24 hours. And if within that 24-hour time frame, the top of the jars don't seal completely, you don't have to throw it away. You can just put them in your refrigerator and you can eat them within the next 2 weeks or so. But if they do seal, then you can set them in your pantry and they will be good for at least a year. Sometimes longer, up to you, but for sure a year. I suggest writing on the tops of the jars what they are and the date that you canned them, so that there's no confusion with old jars that you may have canned. And you might start to hear the popping sound of the jar sealing. I'll show you what I got. Okay, these are my pickles. They are hot off of the canner. These ones I took out already, and some of them have already sealed. There's no, it's not convexed, it's concaved. So once they start to seal, you'll hear this popping sound, and that just means that the lids are sucked down and they're properly sealed. But don't touch them, just leave them for 24 hours, and then the next day you can find out which ones have sealed and which ones haven't. So we're just gonna let these sit on the counter and cool overnight for 24 hours or so, and check them in the morning to see if they've all sealed. And again, if they haven't, that's okay. We'll stick them in the fridge and we'll eat them next couple weeks. But thanks for hanging out with me today, canning the pickles, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.